So this is something I'm pretty sure I've talked about in a video before, but I think it's relevant again today with the announcement of Counter-Strike 2. Now, Counter-Strike 2 isn't a brand new game. It's basically like a big update for Counter-Strike Go. And for those who don't know, Counter-Strike has existed for a while, and it is still an extremely popular game. It is the most played game on Steam right now, has been for a long time, and just recently, in the last month or two, it has hit a new peak of concurrent players. And it's actually broken that peak multiple times within the last month or two. So, you know, pretty impressive stuff, right? Counter-Strike Go released in 2012, so the game has been out for over a decade now, and it's still one of the most popular games, even though it's over a decade old. Counter-Strike absolutely destroys all those arguments about how games have to evolve to stay relevant, or they need enhanced mobility mechanics, they need sprint. Yeah, Counter-Strike just fucking counters all those stupid ass arguments. Counter-Strike's movement is very basic, meaning that it doesn't have things like sprint and slide and clamber and leaning and all this type of stuff that you see in many games now today. And yet, it's still popular, man. Still such a popular game. I'm just so glad a game like Counter-Strike exists. I just love it, man. I just love that Counter-Strike is there. It hasn't drastically changed over the years, and it's just still so popular. I love that, man. I love it. I'm not somebody who played a ton of Counter-Strike back in the day, one, because I didn't really get a gaming PC until I think 2013, and I was also just busy playing Halo back then, and also I personally am more of a fan of games with a longer time to kill. But Counter-Strike's a solid game. It has proven that it can stand the test of time. It has proven that you don't need to drastically change a game for it to stay relevant. A good game can remain a good game and a popular game for over a decade. Games don't need to drastically change or evolve or add sprint to stay relevant. You just don't need it. It doesn't need to be a thing. Those arguments are dog shit. And yeah, just look at Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is the hard counter to all those dog shit arguments. And now let's take a look at Halo. A game that was once on top, but it has fallen off quite a bit. Some would say it's dead. It's not really in a good spot. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. But it used to be. It used to be in a great spot. Halo used to be that game that was killing it. It was on top. Other games wanted to be like Halo. Halo was such a innovative, revolutionary game. The games themselves were amazing. And Halo was a top game, very popular for years. Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, man. Like, people loved these games, and for good reason, because there was a lot of great things about them. But what happened? What got Halo to where it is today? I know that answer is probably obvious, and I know we've probably discussed this plenty in the past, but again, I think this topic is relevant now because of the announcement of Counter-Strike 2 and how Counter-Strike is still very popular and reaching new peaks of concurrent players. So yeah, I think this topic is absolutely still relevant. Yeah, what happened to Halo, man? What happened? A game that was on top and now it's just fucking dog shit, and has been dog shit for a long time. Well, I'd say it started with Reach. Reach did some things that pissed off a lot of people, and rightfully so. Armor abilities, which significantly changed how the game played. Armor lock, jetpack, sprint. A lot of people were not a fan of armor abilities. You also had this dog shit RNG fucking reticle bloom in Halo Reach that was so bad. Yes, I'm aware that some of the older games had like a hidden reticle bloom, but it was pretty egregious in Halo Reach, and also it was visible so people could see it now, so it makes sense that more people would be bitching about it. And by visible, I mean that the actual reticle would expand when you shot your gun. Also, I'd argue that Halo Reach's maps weren't as good as previous Halo games. And so, yeah, there was a lot of things people did not like about Halo Reach. And I understand that Halo 1 fans may not have liked everything in Halo 2, and Halo 2 fans may not have liked everything in Halo 3, but that the criticism of Halo 2, Halo 3, it doesn't even compare to the amount of hate that Halo Reach got, okay? You know, sometimes I'll see people say, oh, all these people who think Halo Reach was bad, they must forget Halo 3 and how people hated equipment in that game. Listen, the hate for equipment or anything else that people didn't like in Halo 3 coming from Halo 2 doesn't even compare to the amount of hate that Halo Reach got because of various things such as armor abilities or reticle bloom, things like that. Doesn't even compare, okay? Reach got a lot more hate than previous Halo games. And then following Halo Reach, we got Halo 4, which kept armor abilities, not the same armor abilities as Halo Reach, but still had armor abilities. Some new annoying abilities like Promethean Vision, Hard Light Shield. Everybody had sprint, and the game took a lot of elements from Call of Duty, like kill streaks, aka ordnance drops, custom loadouts, perks, no D-scope, things like that. So Halo 4 felt drastically different than what people are used to in a Halo game. And following Halo 4, we got Halo 5. This time around 343, they did the whole enhanced mobility thing where players are running around with all these different Spartan abilities, not armor abilities. They called them Spartan abilities this time, but still abilities that drastically change the way the game plays. Things like thrust and sprint, slide, clamber, stabilize, ground pound, Spartan charge, all those things. So yeah, Halo 5 also felt very different than the Halo people had experienced with the first three games, Halo 1, 2, and Halo 3. That was 9 years of Halo there before the release of Halo Reach. So yeah, Halo just changed drastically. And then we have Halo Infinite, which didn't have as many abilities as Halo 5, but it still had some, like sprint and slide and clamber, which do still drastically change the way the game plays, absolutely. But Halo Infinite really has its own issues, like mainly the game just being a broken piece of shit that hasn't worked multiple times when I've hopped on it. Like the UI just doesn't load, or it crashes when I'm starting up a custom game, which happened to me recently.
Anybody know how to fix this? I can't play a custom game. Yeah, I can't play a custom game. This game's been out over a year. We're season 3. It's 2023. I can't play a custom game. I don't know what's going on. It just crashes every fucking time. Why? It just crashes every time. Holy fuck, dude. I got to play one custom game, and then every other custom game I've started after that, it just crashes. Like, here we go. Every time, without fail. Like, there it goes. It's crashing. Sick. Awesome. Great game. Yeah, wow. This game. It's so bad, man.
So that game's just a broken piece of garbage. So I guess, that's really Infinite's main issue. So what started the decline of Halo? But before Halo Infinite and all the issues that game has with it being broken and the awful live service for the game and disregard all that stuff. Let's go back. What what started the decline? Well, we already talked about it. The game changed, drastically changed the way the game played, with things like armor abilities, with things like reticle bloom and Halo Reach. These are things that absolutely drastically impacted how the game plays, for sure. And I hope somebody wouldn't try to argue that abilities didn't drastically change Halo's gameplay, because at that point you just look really dumb. Now, although I believe the decline of Halo was initiated due to the massive gameplay changes, I also feel that later on, with later Halo games, it then became an issue of not only massive changes to the gameplay, but it was also games launching incomplete and 343 making horrible decisions that also contributed to the decline. Like, for example, Halo 5 did not launch with Forge, didn't launch with Firefight. We never even got a traditional firefight in that game, and there was no split screen co-op. So Halo 5 was missing some things, and then Halo Infinite was missing a ton of things at launch and is still missing many things today. The game didn't launch with co-op, theaters broken, didn't launch with Forge, custom games were broken. I mean, the whole game had a lot of issues. No progression system. We know this. So Halo games launching incomplete and being broken pieces of garbage like MCC was at launch and like Halo Infinite is still right now, those are things that also contribute to this decline of Halo. But I do feel that the decline was initiated by the massive changes to the gameplay. Now, not everyone believes that the decline of Halo was initiated by the drastic changes to the gameplay. But listen, it's no coincidence that Halo remained extremely popular for 9 years, close to a decade, across 3 games, and then Halo Reach comes out, first Halo game with armor abilities and this visual reticle bloom. And that's when Halo started getting this increased criticism. And with Reach and following Reach, we started to see a decline in Halo's player base. From Reach to Halo 4, Halo 4 to Halo 5, again, all games that had these abilities in them. And now we are where we're at today, where the player base on Halo Infinite is pathetic. Again, I understand, I wouldn't say Infinite's main issue is its abilities. Infinite has its other bigger issues, such as, again, the game being a broken piece of shit. But I absolutely believe that it was the drastic changes to Halo's gameplay which led to the decline. That is the most logical scenario. That is why Halo fell off. I mean, again, it's pretty obvious that was the case. Again, it's not a coincidence that Halo was very popular for 9 years, 3 different games, very successful, tons of people playing, having a good time. Halo 3 remained the most played game on Xbox Live for multiple years in a row, even though it was up against fierce competition. And then Halo Reach comes out, makes drastic changes to the gameplay. You start seeing more people criticizing Halo or quitting Halo. And then Halo 4 keeps abilities, Halo 5 keeps abilities, and more people fell off. Yeah, just not a coincidence at all. Like, I am 99.9% sure That's what led to Halo's decline. You know, I can't be 100% sure, but it's like, it's so obvious that that's most likely the case, right? Listen, let me put it like this. If you don't think that it was the drastic changes to Halo's gameplay that led to its decline, that's like the equivalent of, you know, walking outside in the morning, everything's all wet, it sounded like it rained last night and it was supposed to rain, and then you conclude that somebody must have come by with a hose and sprayed everything down. Couldn't have rained. It couldn't have been that, right? This is the same level of fucking stupidity. I am not exaggerating that at all. If you actually think that Halo's decline was not because of its drastic gameplay changes, then refer to the fucking rain analogy I just made, okay? So now I want to bring this back to Counter-Strike, a franchise that stuck to its roots and remained very consistent over the years. It's a series that didn't try to reinvent itself. It didn't add sprint like Halo did. You know, a lot of people say, oh, pulling your knife out in Counter-Strike, you go faster, so that's kind of like sprint. I mean, you can say it's like sprint, but it's not sprint. It's still different than sprint. So, I mean, you can't say, oh, pulling out your knife makes you go faster, therefore Counter-Strike has sprint. No, that is fucking stupid. It is not sprint. It's different than sprint. You want to draw some similarities between that and sprint? Sure, but again, it's not sprint. Now, the sprint debate has kind of, you know, died down with Halo over the years. Some people act like 343 figured it out with Halo Infinite. They didn't. It still shouldn't be in Halo. It still does change how the game plays. Hey, I do believe Halo would be better without it. But I think the reason that debate died down is people either got bored of you know, complaining about it, and they just accepted it, and like other people just, you know, quit Halo altogether and just said fuck it, right? But again, CSGO is proof that you don't need sprint. A game doesn't have to drastically change. It doesn't have to do any of these things. A good game can remain a good game and a popular game for a long time. And what's even more pathetic about Halo basically killing itself, right? Like, it's not like another game came along and ended Halo. Like, no, Halo just did it to its fucking self. It shot itself in the foot, essentially. But 343, they haven't tried a new classic Halo game, right? They haven't tried a new game without abilities. They haven't tried this yet. They haven't looked back to what works and done that. 343 has been working on Halo for over a decade. And time again, game after game, they just refuse to try what works. Go back to what works and was like the most successful fucking video game at the time and remained a very successful game for several years after it released. They won't go back to trying that. It's just the weirdest thing. Maybe it's because they know some people do like the abilities. But, you know, that's kind of 343's fault for like creating or expanding upon this new type of Halo that doesn't really feel like Halo to a lot of people, right? Like, Bungie started the abilities with Reach, but 343 expanded upon it, right? They kept the abilities. They exacerbated the problem. And now that 343 has, you know, maintained this new type of Halo with abilities, they've created new Halo fans that do like that stuff. Again, the player base is you know, in the fucking ground, because a lot of people do not like this new Halo. But it would at least make sense for 343 to try and recreate what was once so popular and could absolutely still be popular today. When you really think about what 343 did with Halo, it really doesn't make any sense at all. I know a lot of the things they do don't make sense, but just think about this. they inherited a franchise that was so successful, one of the most successful video games. And they immediately try to change it. Drastically change, okay? Some change, minor change is good, okay? Small evolutions, but not reinventing what the game is. I mean, in that Halo 5 trailer that I showed earlier in the video, it said the series that defined console multiplayer redefines itself. Excuse me? And that was with Halo 5. That was coming off a Halo 4. Well, coming off... It was the next mainline Halo game after Halo 4. And 343, apparently they learned from their mistakes with Halo 4. And yet they're trying to reinvent Halo with Halo 5, the very next mainline Halo game? Excuse me? I mean, did they think that MCC would suffice to satisfy classic Halo fans? Because at that time, MCC was broken beyond belief, a barely playable game. So, I mean, MCC was, I mean, that's not a good classic. That was definitely not a good classic Halo game at that time. So yeah, it really just doesn't make any fucking sense at all. They inherited something great, something people loved, and they tried to drastically change it with Halo 5. And again, that's coming off of Halo 4, where they changed Halo, and then apparently they learned from those mistakes. So then they, instead of learning from those mistakes and being like, okay, we got to give people what they want, what we know people love with the classic Halo games, instead of 343 recognizing that, they opted to change Halo again. Okay, they just didn't like how we changed Halo with Halo 4. Let's try enhanced mobility. Let's change it that way. Then maybe people will like it. It is the stupidest fucking thing. And as I mentioned, not all change is bad. Some change is good. Some change improves things. But 343 went overboard, obviously. Like again, with Halo 4, 343 took a bunch of elements from Call of Duty, like custom classes, perks, kill streaks, no D-scope, everybody had sprint, and then they made some horrible decisions with the armor abilities in that game, where one of the abilities was basically like wall hacks, Promethean vision. Halo 5, they give all players these 7 abilities that you have at all times, and they keep recharging so you can keep using them. That is drastic as fuck. Think about Counter-Strike. What if Counter-Strike got those 7 abilities that we had in Halo 5? Could you fucking imagine the outrage? Okay? Like, that is... You are completely changing the fucking game. And I really don't think everybody doesn't recognize that. I think there's some people that actually believe that Halo 5 still played like Halo. And I mean, you're free to feel that way. I mean, you can say it still felt like Halo to you, but you cannot deny, well, you can, but you just look really dumb. It's hard to deny that armor abilities and Spartan abilities and some of the other dumb decisions 343 made with their Halo games drastically changed how Halo played. With Counter-Strike, not every game is the same, right? They're not exactly the same. There's subtle changes between each game. Some games saw more significant changes than others, but it was subtle changes, and it didn't go crazy and do what Halo 5 did. And I think a lot of the changes that we saw from Counter-Strike 1.6 to Counter-Strike Source to CSGO, and probably to CS2 when players get their hands on that, I think a lot of people felt that those changes were good, that they improved the game. So that's what Counter-Strike did. They implemented subtle changes, some changes bigger than others, but again, I think a lot of people saw those changes as improvements. What Counter-Strike did not do is it did not add sprint and slide and clamber and stabilize and Spartan charge and ground pound, and it didn't add all these garbage abilities that would drastically change the fucking game, like Halo did. And 343 still has yet to create a classic Halo game. MCC doesn't count because the classic Halo games in the MCC are just Bungie's games, obviously. But yeah, 343 didn't do classic Halo with Halo 4, didn't do it with Halo 5, didn't do it with Halo Infinite. And when will they ever learn? But this isn't even something that 343 should have to learn, right? Like, when you inherit something that is insanely successful and people still love at that time, tons of people, you just give people more of that thing. You don't try to reinvent it. You don't try to copy other games. That's just common fucking sense. And 343, they have not learned that after all this time. They haven't done classic Halo yet. I mean, like, that is just so fucking embarrassing on their part. Now, if 343 were to release a classic Halo game, I'm not saying that it's guaranteed to pop off and be as popular as it once was. I'm not saying it would even be more popular than Infinite is right now, right? 343 has been making garbage Halo for a decade, right? So many people have moved the fuck on. They are gone. Gone. They don't give a fuck about Halo anymore. They don't care if Infinite gets better. They don't care if we get a classic game anymore. They're done. They moved the fuck on, right? Halo's been garbage for so fucking long. So yeah, if they release a classic game and it doesn't pop off, that doesn't just mean, oh, see, people just don't like classic Halo anymore. No, that's because Halo's been dog shit for a decade. That's why. And also, people don't have a lot of trust in 343 anymore. Like, at all. I mean, think about how many times they fucked up. Halo 4, Halo 5, MCC, one of the worst video game launches of all time. Halo Infinite, broken piece of garbage. Garbage live service. Like, so no shit that a classic Halo game made by 343, it's like, yeah, no shit if that doesn't do well, right? It doesn't mean people don't like classic Halo, though. And, you know, some people will make the argument, well, if people liked classic Halo so much, what about Halo 3 when the servers were up? Or what about MCC? Well, with Halo 3, when Xbox 360, when the servers were up, it's 30 FPS, not a consistent 30 FPS, 640p, right? A lot of people don't want to play on that. Right? I can deal with that because the game's so good, but a lot of people aren't willing to deal with the low resolution, low frame rate, and that type of stuff. And, you know, plus the game was limited to Xbox 360, older hardware. That is until Halo 3 became backwards compatible with Xbox One, but still, it's an older game built for older hardware. And then with Halo the Master Chief Collection, again, it was one of the worst video game launches of all time. A broken, unplayable piece of garbage for several years. So no shit, no shit people wouldn't be playing that game, even if they love classic Halo, okay? Like, the arguments people make about this stuff is they're just so fucking bad. And they actually think they sound smart, like when they're making these arguments, like, well, what about MCC? That's classic, and look at that player base. Like, they make these arguments, they actually think they're making a good point, but they're not. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for this one. Counter-Strike, still very popular. We got CS2 on the horizon, I think later this summer. And yeah, it's just never switched up. Never drastically changed and tried to copy other games and become something else. It's just it's a very consistent game. Halo, on the other hand, I don't know, that was pretty much like video game suicide. Shot themselves in the foot. And 343 just still refuses to try a classic Halo game, and let's see how that does, right? Is that such a crazy idea to try classic when, 3 classic Halo games from back in the day were extremely popular, like the top games that everybody was talking about and playing? Is it really so crazy to try that now? Especially when a game like CSGO has proven that you don't need to drastically change a game for it to still be relevant. Not even just relevant, but extremely popular, most played game on Steam. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.